What is up, my beautiful people? Welcome back to the Made to Excel Fitness Podcast, the fitness podcast for you, by you. I'm your host, as always, Mark Torres, and in today's episode number 49, I'm going to tell you my favorite tip for cutting calories to lose fat. Let's talk about it. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the Made to Excel Fitness Podcast. Today's podcast is obviously, as you heard in the introduction, all about my favorite tip for cutting calories from your diet in order to lose fat or to lose weight. Those two things are different, but they both work for this particular podcast episode. And I think the one thing that I want you guys to understand, and the one thing that I will preface before I get into the topic itself, is the fact that we often correlate weight with health. Those two things are often used as kind of these interchangeable concepts. And I think for the most part, more times than not, they do go hand in hand oftentimes. But I do think there are many scenarios where you can be a good weight, a healthy weight, and still be an unhealthy person. So if you walk into the doctor's office and they take your height, they have a graph there and it says if you're 5'10", you should be, anywhere from so-and-so pounds to so-and-so pounds. It's like a range for the most part. And then there's different percentiles. I think it's been a while since I went to a doctor, but I think that's how they go about doing it. And that's how they determine whether or not you're a healthy weight. And I think more oftentimes than not, you being in the healthy weight zone is obviously going to be more advantageous than you being underweight or overweight, especially to the extreme on either side. But I don't think that those two things are always one and the same, and it's pretty obvious when you start to think about these things. Like if you think about a rock star in their heyday, you've got Tommy Lee, you've got Steven Tyler, you've got Ozzy Osbourne. At any one point in any of those guys' lives, they could have absolutely walked into the doctor's office and the doctor would have said, you're 5'10", you should be this weight, you're around that weight, you did a good job, here's a golden star, you got a clean ticket of health. Of course not. Those guys were doing every single drug under the sun. They were putting their body through lots of turmoil. Therefore, despite being a healthy weight, they were definitely not healthy people in terms of like their body's ability to be as efficient as possible and to have longevity. Obviously, there's a big disconnect there. So I think oftentimes than not, they are related. They do go hand in hand, but not all the time. And the reason why I wanted to kind of tell you guys that before I told you guys the tip is that when it comes to weight management, obviously today I'll talk about weight loss, but this could be applied to weight gain or even weight maintenance as well. There are absolutely ways to achieve the objective and to complete the objective in a way that's maybe not health conscious first. That's the secondary thing here. So a good example of this as well is like if you're in a position where your health is in danger because of your weight and you have to lose weight in order to live a longer, healthier life and keep moving forward, that you absolutely have to put yourself in a position where you lose weight no matter how you do it before you can start making those health conscious decisions and hopefully improve your life going forward from there. But if you're in a position where you've got a few pounds to lose and you want to do it in a healthy manner, that's obviously a very different sort of weight loss than the first scenario that I just talked about. So there's definitely a distinction between those two things, and today's topic is absolutely a distinction, or is absolutely a tip where it comes from stemming from losing weight first and then making more health conscious decisions going after. And I think the real reason for that is I think there's a lot of benefits, even health wise, maybe not as much as if you kind of put your health conscious mind first, but there's lots of health benefits to just losing a decent amount of weight pretty quickly, right? And not pretty quickly, but losing weight no matter how you do it. So in terms of like maybe things like your cholesterol and your blood pressure and the stress on your joints, all of those things improve to a certain extent just by weight loss, even if you don't do it in a health conscious way going forward. So hopefully the tip that I give you guys today, it is a way to lose weight. It is a way to be healthier in the long run, but there are obviously healthier ways to go about doing this first and foremost than anything else. But that's a decision for you guys to make as you go forward. So just keep that in mind as I tell you guys the tip, because you're going to be like, this doesn't sound maybe like the best tip, but kind of as I go through it, it'll start to make more sense. So my favorite tip for cutting calories for fat loss is to find the lesser evil. And what I mean by that is a lot of you guys, and it's going to be different for everybody because everybody's got different vices, and I'll use myself as an example, so hopefully that kind of correlates and translates to maybe some of you guys' situations. A lot of you guys have these habits, especially dietary habits, that you form over an extended period of time. So for me, my habit, and kind of the easiest way for me to think about this concept, is the increase in my ice cream consumption. So I've always loved ice cream. I have a really bad sweet tooth, and ice cream is one of those things that I obviously enjoy, but it's not ever one of those things that I went to the store and I went out of my way to go buy a pint of ice cream. Like if I was out and about and there was an ice cream place nearby, or I was eating at a place that serves ice cream, yeah, I would absolutely go get ice cream, especially in the hotter months than the colder months. But I think all in all, it probably ended up being maybe twice a month that I would have ice cream. It wasn't very often. And that number would go up in the summer and it would go down in the winter. So it probably evens out to like 2 ice creams a month. And that depends on the size, depends on if I got a cone or a cup or whatever. That doesn't matter. But over the course of the past year, especially it's March 2021 now as I record this, and obviously shutdowns happened in March of 2020. Over this past year, the first like 6 or 7 months of this year was just being at home. Like everything shut down. I was not working for many months at a time. And in that time frame, I started consuming a lot more ice cream. There was really nothing else to do except go to the store, get yourself a pint of Ben & Jerry's, and kind of sit around and watch TV, right? And, you know, my health and my fitness obviously took a big hit, but my ice cream consumption went from 2 pints a month to like sometimes 2 pints a week. Obviously, over the course of 4 weeks, that's 8 pints over the course of a month versus the 2 that I was used to. So literally a quadrupling of my ice cream consumption. And then obviously as businesses started to reopen and I went back to work, and I've been back to work for like 6 months now or something like that over the course of the year, my ice cream consumption hasn't changed all that much because it's a habit that I formed over those first 6 or 7 months, and it has kind of continued forward over the course of this past year, despite not being at home as much. So this is a habit that I formed, and obviously habits form over an extended period of time, and you've got to break them over an extended period of time. So for me, I have 2 very obvious placeholders, right? So if I'm eating 2 pints of ice cream per week, those are my 2 very obvious placeholders. Now I can look at what is inside those placeholders and start to make better decisions within those 2 things. So for me, it's the 2 pints of ice cream. For you, it might be pizza, it might be beer, it might be whatever that thing is for you, if you can think about the placeholders that are your habits, right? For me, it's 2 pints of ice cream. So I know that within those 2 placeholders, those 2 pints of ice cream are typically like 2 Ben & Jerry's pints. And if you look at a pint of Ben & Jerry's half-baked, the whole pint has 1,100 calories, which for a lot of you guys out there, that might be half of your daily calories that you need to consume. And that's not even including breakfast, lunch, dinner, and whatever snacks you might eat. So if I go through and I eat that whole pint, that might be half of my calories for the day. It's no wonder that I'm gaining weight over the course of this whole year. It's pretty obvious when you start to look at it like that. So I think that, you know, over the course of that week, that's pretty much 2,200 calories that I'm consuming just from ice cream. Now I can look at those 2 placeholders in terms of that ice cream, and instead of, you know, this is where the health decision starts to kick in. Your first knee-jerk reaction instinct might be, if ice cream is a problem for you, motherfucker, stop eating ice cream, you know, like take it out. But I think elimination works a lot less than reduction. In terms of anything, it doesn't have to be just the way you eat. It could be like a shopping addiction to shoes. It could be smoking. It could be drinking. It could be watching too much TV. It could be playing video games. Whatever you think you do in excess, it's really hard to eliminate, and it's probably easier to reduce. Not a lot of people have, I don't know if it's a gene or a character trait or whatever it is. A lot of people don't have the ability to just quit something cold turkey. And it's not even quitting something cold turkey. It might be starting something cold turkey. Like if the extreme or the baseline that you're used to is nothing and you're starting something up, that's the same thing as like if your baseline was super high in something and you cut it out completely. So, you know, a lot of people out there, I would say most people out there, don't have the ability to just cold turkey something. And I think you can start to look back into your life and think about maybe times where you started to try to do something or cut something completely and see how well that worked out for you, right? And you probably can see, you might have the notion that you can do something cold turkey, but if you start to think back at things, you know, actually really start to assess these things, you might be like, oh yeah, I remember at some point 2 years ago, I tried to go keto and it worked for like 3 weeks and then I kind of gave up, right? you did keto cold turkey. Obviously, cold turkey we typically refer to as cutting something out, but you drastically changed the way you eat, the way you ate at that moment. That's kind of a cold turkey addition by just the shifting of your diet, and you found out that you weren't able to do it that long, and you cold turkeyed it for a little bit, but didn't last very long. So same thing, like you're used to not working out at all and you want to work out 5-6 days a week, and you do it for a shortened period of time, and then it kind of just doesn't go from there, it fizzles out. So a lot of people, some people out there just have that characteristic, and they can just like, you know what, I've done something for too long, it's getting out of control, let me just stop it right here, and they'll never go back to it again. And that's absolutely insane. But I'm going to assume that most of you guys out there, and you listening or watching right now, probably don't have that trait in you right now. So as opposed to eliminating, let's shoot for reduction. So I know I have these two placeholders that are 1,100 calories worth of half-baked Ben & Jerry's. Now I can start to make, instead of reducing or instead of eliminating and saying, I'm going to stop eating ice cream altogether, or I'm going to try to eliminate one of those pints and just eat one pint, I can still have those two placeholders, and I can make better decisions within those placeholders itself. So let's say if I'm still going to eat 2 pints of ice cream a week, 1 pint might be still that half-baked Ben & Jerry's because I love it so much, and the other pint might be a more healthy, calorie-reduced version of ice cream that I can consume and still cut my calories going forward, while still having those two placeholders in place. So my habit is still there. I'm just working on reducing that habit. So a great example of this is I have that full strength Ben & Jerry's half-baked, and Ben & Jerry's has dairy-free ice cream. They have a peanut butter half-baked that is dairy-free. Now, if you look at it, it's still 990 calories. So it's really only 110 calories less. But if I were to just consume that once a week instead of my second full strength Ben & Jerry's pint, that is 110 calories less per week over 52 weeks. That's 100 or 5,000 something calories. I'll pop it up here because movie magic, editing magic. That's like almost 2 free pounds of weight loss just by reducing that very little bit. Now, through my extensive research and my extensive tasting of ice creams, I know that dairy-free Ben & Jerry's tastes like absolute dookie, and it's not that great. So in order to reduce 110 calories, just to reduce 110 calories for an ice cream that is pretty much awful, it's not that much of a sacrifice that I want to make. So I need to find a different alternative. So this is something that'll take some time, and I have found that going forward, like, the pretty obvious choice is like a Halo Top for me. But Halo Top is absolutely god-awful as well. And I wouldn't want to... Obviously, that's a drastic reduction in calories. Most of those Halo Tops are like 300, somewhere between 300 and 400 calories a pint. So that's a very drastic reduction in calories, which is what we're going for here. But it's just not that good. And it's not going to be... It's too much of a elimination in that point, where I went from a really yummy pint of Ben & Jerry's to a really shitty Halo Top pint. It's too much of a elimination that I'm going to eventually find my way to still go back to eating 2 pints of Ben & Jerry's because that ice cream just tastes that awful. So, like I said, over the course of my extensive research, I found that like Enlightened makes a really good low-calorie ice cream, right? Dairy-free. They had ooey gooey cinnamon bun, and the swirls of cinnamon bun were a little strong, but the ice cream itself was really good. So if I can find a different flavor that I enjoy, a lot of those calories, or a lot of the pints in those calories, are also like 300-400 calories a pop. So I think that's a really good reduction. I don't feel too bad. I don't feel like I'm super off base from my Ben & Jerry's. I still feel like I can enjoy the ice cream while having that reduction in calories. So 400 calories versus 1,100 calories, that's 700 calories that I save. Think of all the fun things that I can do with those 700 calories. I can eat more food within that, or I can save some of those calories in order to help me lose weight over the course of a long period of time. If I just keep it like that and I don't eat any more calories to fill in those 700 calories, 700 times 52 is... bang, right there. I don't know exactly what it is, but maybe I'll voice over it after the fact for those of you guys who are not listening to the show or who are not watching the show and saw it on the screen there. So I think that is a really powerful idea. The fact that you can continue working on reducing your habit while not eliminating the habit, you can make progress going forward in terms of your health, in terms of your weight, in terms of your fitness, while still maintaining the habit to an extent and working on whittling down that habit to the point where it's either manageable or gone altogether. As opposed to trying to cut all that ice cream out all at once. I'm going to be able to do that for a couple of weeks, and I'm going to say, fuck it, I really want Ben & Jerry's. Half-baked is really good. Let me go back, and I'm going to find myself back in that same spot. So that's a really powerful idea. It's going to be different for everybody, right? Let's say you're a person who over the quarantine got really into like IPAs, and you are used to slugging down a 6-pack of different IPAs a week on every weekend. And that's going to be a lot of calories. IPAs are going to be way more higher in calories than like a Bud Light, right? So if you're used to doing that, you're used to drinking 6 IPAs per weekend. Obviously, that number is going to fluctuate a little bit from beer to beer, but you might go to Wegmans where they have the create your own 6-packs, and you might say, all right, instead of getting 6 really high-calorie IPAs, I'm going to get 5 high-calorie IPAs and a Bud Light. Is it going to be a drastic reduction in calories? In that moment, absolutely not, but your habit is still intact. And over the course of a longer period of time, that 1 Bud Light turns into 2 Bud Lights, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, right? And kind of finding the balance there. You might not want to completely eliminate the IPAs from your life, but you want to find a way to still enjoy your IPAs while reducing calories in order to help you lose weight in the long run. So really, at the end of the day, you might be thinking to yourself, is this tip telling me to eat ice cream? Are you a personal trainer telling me to eat ice cream? Why, yes, I am. You know why? Because ice cream is life. But you can absolutely make progress eating things that you enjoy eating. And it's all about improving on the baseline that you've already created. So my baseline was 2 pints of ice cream a month, and now it's 8 pints of ice cream a month. If I can whittle that down as much as possible and reduce the calories as much as possible while still enjoying my life, while still consuming ice cream, I'm in the best of both worlds. Of course, if my health was a concern, and this is going to vary from person to person to person, then I might have to make some more drastic health conscious decisions. That might be cutting ice cream out for an extended period of time until my health gets under wraps. But as long as you're a relatively healthy individual right now and you have the time to start to work on that habit to the point where it's manageable and to the point where you can still make progress and be happy about your fitness life and be happy about the fact that you can consume ice cream, that's a really great place to be in. So I think trying to find the placeholders that are the habits that you have and whittling down, reducing, not eliminating, is going to be a really great best of both worlds scenario. So maybe, depending on your situation, you might have to make some more aggressive health conscious decisions. But if you're in the space where you can start to slowly work on those things, you're going to enjoy the process so much more than if you were to try to make these drastic changes all at once. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you can apply that to your particular situation and you can have the best of both worlds. Eat ice cream, lose weight, be healthier in the long run. That sounds like a really great life to live. Hopefully that made sense. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out. I love you.
What's up, Mark? How you doing, man? Hunter Henry, LA Charger tight end. Best big time shout out to your fitness podcast, the Made to Excel Fitness podcast. So super cool, man. Got a lot going on. Bolt ganger, don't bang.